Welcome to Gift of Life, the organ transplant podcast. These are the stories of those who have received, given, and who are waiting for the gift of life, organ transplantation. Now here's your host and heart and kidney recipient, BJ Odom.
Welcome to the Gift of Life, the organ transplant podcast, a place where we journey through the incredible world of organ transplantation. I'm your host, BJ Odom. Each week, we uncover inspiring stories and meet extraordinary individuals who are connected to the world of transplants. Remember to support us by leaving that 5-star review and subscribing on your preferred podcast platform. And don't forget, you can join us on Facebook at Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. As we head into the month of August, National Multi-Ethnic Donor Awareness Month, better known to some as NMDAM, also known as National Minority Donor Awareness Month. The month's goal is to improve the quality of life for diverse communities by creating a positive culture for organ, eye, and tissue donation. NMDAM focuses on education and outreach. This month we'll meet some amazing people. In fact, later on today, we'll talk with Kalanda, who remembers her son James. He was an organ donor that saved lives and helped people have better quality of lives. And when she sees that, she is one proud mama. We'll hear her story, but first we talk with Erica from LifeLink of Florida. Erica, if you could, please tell us a little bit more about National Multi-Ethnic Donor Awareness Month.
Yeah, so National Multi-Ethnic Donor Awareness Month, it actually started off as a single day observance, and then it became a week-long observance, and then it became what it is now, which is a month-long observance. And actually, the person who created this observance is Dr. Clive Callender. He's a huge figure in the donation and transplant world. So he's actually a physician, and currently I believe he's a professor of surgery at Howard University. And so he started something called National MOTEP, Minority Organ Tissue Transplant Education. And so this was really his brainchild. He saw that there was a great need to bring heightened awareness about the importance of donation to multicultural communities. And so that's how this observance came to be about. And then just over the years, it has grown and expanded, and really who kind of helps push this along every year. It's a collective of different groups. So that includes folks from AMAT, the Association of Multicultural Association and Transplant, Donate Life America, UNOS, it's, I think, National Kidney Foundation as well, too. So it's a whole bunch of organizations under this umbrella of the National Multicultural Action Group, NMAG, who helps to really push forward this observance. And it's really focused heavily on bringing that awareness to largely the African American Black community, the Hispanic Latino community, Asian American and Pacific Islander, as well as Native American communities, across the country. Because unfortunately, these multicultural communities are more likely to need a transplant than our white counterparts. So we want this community to be informed. We want them to register to be donors as well, too, and understand that they're also helping and giving back to their community as well, because they do make a large percentage of the folks that are waiting for a transplant.
Now, so this is a specific need. Now, do minorities somewhat, because I know I've had other people say, minorities are a little afraid of doctors anyway. They're not as trustworthy. Is that the main focus of this, is to let them be educated?
Absolutely. And like you said, that is definitely the biggest barrier in communities of color, is having that distrust of the medical community. And there's a various reasons for that. I know what's sort of highlighted a lot is the Tuskegee experiments from many years ago, as sometimes cited as the reason why some folks are distrusting of the medical community. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that yes, it's unfortunately an ugly sort of stain in our history, but by educating them about what the process really is like, what the system here in the United States is really like, we can start to break down those barriers, and having open dialogue where folks can ask questions and we can answer them. And we've actually done a survey in years, maybe about a year or two ago, Lifelink did, to try to get to understanding, especially our local community, what were those barriers. And definitely distrust of the medical community was one of them. But where they actually felt like they could get better information about donation, they cited as either their personal doctor or even the actual organ recovery program in their area as being sort of a trustworthy sort of gatekeeper of that information to share that information. So while there is distrust for the medical community, they actually want to hear it from folks in the medical community, like their personal physician or their local organ recovery organization as well too.
Now, this might be a delicate question, but is it working?
I mean, I think it's a marathon. It's not a race, right? So it's going to take a while. And I know for us, it's about creating relationships, and it's not about the ask right away. It's not about immediately asking folks to register to donate today. Instead, we're here. This is how we serve the community. How can we better educate you about this? What do you need to feel like you can make that informed decision when you're ready? And then that registration will come later. You just have to start first by really ingratiating yourself with the community and giving back to that community. And then the ask for that registration comes later. And we've seen that is really what works nationally to try to help, again, get those communities to register.
Now, what does the local Lifelink do to reach out and to educate the communities?
So, I mean, it starts with meeting people where they are. We need to get outside of our little spaces and go to these communities, meet people exactly, in their neighborhoods, at the, local community events that are happening. And it could be something as simple as having a table there, or maybe it's going to a Sunday service and speaking at a Sunday service about what donation is. I think what's also really important is having folks share their stories as well too. We have a wonderful volunteer program, and they are the ambassadors of sharing their stories, and some of them are recipients. So you'll see stories from folks who look like you, who speak like you, who are so grateful for the opportunity to be alive because they received a transplant. And then on the flip side, we have donor families, who in their worst day of their lives either had to make that decision for their loved one and say, I would like my loved one to be a donor, or just, were supportive of their loved one's decision before their passing and had registered. And they're saying, I'm so grateful that my loved one had made that decision and took that burden off of us. And this is why it's important to us. It's helped us in our, healing journey and our grief journey to know that our loved one gave back to someone. And again, those families look like you, talk like you, they're part of your community. I think that goes a long way too. So really it's just being in the community as much as possible, meeting people where they are and sharing those stories goes a long way to sort of connect the dots about what donation and transplant really means.
And when you're out among the communities, what is probably the number one question you get from them?
Probably, and it's a huge myth or amongst the general public is, okay, if I get this on my license, when I go to get my license renewed or get it for the first time and they ask me to register, they're going to have that icon on my license. If I were to get in an accident, are they going to save my life? Are they going to do everything they can to save my life? Or are they just going to let me pass away so that I become a donor? That is a huge myth among the general public, and I would say it's probably just equally as much of a myth amongst communities of color as well. So it just, again, goes back to, well, let me talk to you about how the process works. Our medical community, doctors, nurses, anyone in the hospital, they're going to try to get you to the hospital in time, do everything that they can to save your life. And it's only after they've exhausted all measures do we even begin the discussion about donation. And it's not the folks at the hospital who are involved in the donation process. It's Lifelink, if you're in our area, or any of the other organ or tissue recovery organizations across the United States, who will actually begin that process of talking to your family about donation. Either they're telling you, hey, your loved one had registered to be a donor, and we're going to walk you through this process. Or in other cases, if that person hadn't registered, then we're, asking the family for consent. But in either scenario, your family is always involved in that process. And so we want folks to know that that's not true. We have a code of honor and ethics within the medical community, and it's, do no harm, right? You need to try to do all that you can to save someone, and it's only after. Unfortunately, there's nothing else that could be done. Do we even begin that conversation?
Now, I know that you have no control over this, but I think a lot of times it's, Hollywood. My wife, she loves the hospital dramas that, you see on television all the time. So many times they kind of misrepresent, like, okay, we have a person on, floor 3 and they need a heart. And this particular person that just came in, it doesn't work that way. And maybe you can tell the people again, it's not like you see on television.
It's not. And actually, I'll cite that sometimes when I'm out in the community as well. You can't trust everything that you see in pop culture, whether it's represented in TV shows and movies, it's a drama, as you said. It's meant for entertainment value, but that's not always reality. And so, we have had situations where people are like, well, I saw this movie, or I saw that, Grey's Anatomy, or there was, I think, another show called like The Margaret Heart a few years back, where, people were like very concerned. And we got to remind folks, you can't always believe what you see on social media or on TV. And that's why it's important to ask questions and go to a reliable source. So, if we're out in the community, come up to our LifeLink table, and talk to us. Or if we're doing a presentation and you have, some questions, but go to a reliable source like our website, like our staff who's out in the community, or another trusted source. Like, I mentioned, folks sometimes want to hear that information from their personal physician, have that conversation as well too. But it happens every so often. Certainly, certain, really popular show or something might start to raise some red flags for folks, but we usually try to get ahead of that as much as possible if we know that, particularly controversial episode or something's going to come out. But for the most part, you can't always predict that that's going to happen, but we've gotten really good about making sure that we also confront that issue, and we're proactive and not reactive as well.
And I think the thing that you do, which is like tremendous, is you take these people that have had transplants, you take these donor families, and you take them out to the world and say, look what happens. And I've talked about this a few times on my podcast, that I had a gentleman who lost his wife like 3 years before he needed a liver transplant. He got that liver transplant, and now that he's seen how that has helped him and how it has changed his life, his biggest regret in life is that 3 years ago, when his wife passed, he didn't know this information. And if he had known this information, he would have done completely different of what they did when she passed, where he said, no. And today,
Absolutely,
it would have been a yes, yes, yes. And so I think, like you say, when you take these people out, they share their stories. You see someone from the Black community or the brown community, and they're healthy and they're smiling, and it's all because of organ donation. It hits home.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You see yourself in these people, I've been working in this field for 5 years now. I'm still touched by the stories that people share, especially, if you hear about from a mom who's talking about their kid who was a donor. As a mom myself, I can't help but see myself, how am I any different from that mom, So I think that's exactly, why we're so grateful for our volunteers who are willing to share their story, because they really can be that face to this cause, for these communities, whether it's communities of color or just the general public. It helps them to see themselves that could easily be me.
And we're going to be joined here in a few moments by a donor mother, right?
Exactly. Yes. A wonderful, wonderful donor mom. She has an amazing story and sharing about her son. And I remember I actually was the first one to go out with her to do a community event. And I was completely touched by her story.
And we will have her on coming up next. Welcome back to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. August is National Multi-Ethnic Donor Awareness Month, and we have Kalanda on, who is a donor mother. Welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. I'm a donor family, so it started with me donating my son's heart, but I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a resident of Tampa, Florida, and I was born and raised here, and I'm a mother of 5 children. And I have 7 grands now, and I've been an employee of Tampa General Hospital for about 17 years.
I have run into you at least once, because I have been there many, many times, young lady.
Oh, my. We might have passed each other in the hallway and didn't. But, yes, sir, and my journey with being donor family, donor mom came about 6 years ago. When I lost my son, James, and he tragically had passed away unexpectedly at the age of 28.
And tell us a little bit about James.
Okay, well, James, he was my firstborn, and he was the one who made me a mother. So it was all about James, and James was very vibrant. He loved sports as he grew older. He had a smile that could light up a room, and he thought he was the ladies' man. He just knew he was the ladies' man. He loved photography. He loved taking pictures. He loved capturing the moments of good things. He used to say to me all the time. And he was just vibrant and outgoing and was always just there when you needed him, always encouraged you and always uplifted his brothers and sisters. And he became the father of 2 beautiful girls, Tamila and London. And I don't know what else to say about him. He just was just that kid. When you were down, he made you laugh. When you were happy, he made you laugh. So he was just that all-around people person kid. Just nothing can get him down. But he was very, very good kid.
And I'll bet knowing that his organs have helped so many people, it's got to make you even prouder than ever, right?
Absolutely, BJ. When James, one day he had a severe asthma attack, and his lungs had collapsed, and it led to the loss of oxygen in his brain and his vital organs. I was told he kept coding during the transportation, getting to the hospital. And then, by the time I had gotten there, things didn't turn for the better, and they went ahead and put him on life support. And I guess the doctors, had did what they wanted and what they could do at the moment. They had exhausted every area where they could help James. And at that point in time, James was not a registered organ donor. It wasn't until after everything had happened and they pronounced James brain dead and that he was not going to have a good quality of life that organ donation had notified me and they approached me at that time. But it was done in such decency and order. I couldn't remember anything but good things about it during the time that I hadn't lost my son. So I was treated with respect, and I loved that. But yes, sir, he was able to give good quality of life to a couple people. His heart, his eyes, his skin, his kidneys was not able to be used, but they were able to be used for research. And it was some other organs that was involved in being used through the organ donation process.
Now, I know you got some thank you letters, obviously, from the recipients.
Mhm.
Have you had a chance, or would you want the chance to meet any of them?
Oh, absolutely. They will play a big part in my life that will give me hope and, just keep my spirit alive as it pertains to my son, spirit living on. One recipient that received James's heart, me and him have a connection, and he's been a big part of my life since that, because he's had so much gratitude in the organ, being able to give him a better quality of life. And he had went through like 3 heart bypasses, so he had bad quality, but in the result of me losing somebody and he was able to gain life, that gave me so much joy. That helped me along the way, getting myself back together, as a mom, should be. When you lose someone, you kind of like lose everything. You've lost it and you don't know which way to turn. But through this organ donation and the people that have received James's organs, I've received nothing but joy. I have good memories. I've connected with them. We laugh and giggle, and he continues to show his gratitude, along with the recipient of his eyes. His eyes through Lions Eye Institute went to China.
Okay.
And I had received the call from the young man who received them. So that just makes my heart so much more happier to know that he was able to help someone, and didn't matter who it was or what it was. It was just used as a way to help somebody have a better quality of life. The challenges and the moments were a profound connection for me and a few of the recipients of his organs.
What was it like the first time you met the heart recipient?
I didn't know if I should hug him. I didn't know that if I should hug him or just stand there and ask some questions. But when we first met, after going through a year, because we had to follow the procedures of the HIPAA laws and things of that nature through LifeLink. They took us through that process, and we had to wait, but then it was upon us that we would be able to meet each other. And they did what they had to do as far as sending us the documentation that it was okay that we would like to meet each other. And when I first met him, he came to my church. He had found out what church I attended, and he came to my church on Easter Sunday.
Oh, that must have been a beautiful day for you.
Yeah. Oh my! I think there was no dry eye in my church that day after my pastor had introduced them. And somehow, knowingly, my pastor knew about it because my husband had not talked to the pastor. Oh my goodness, this is so amazing! But when I just hugged him and I couldn't let him go because I wanted to feel, oh my God, I just wanted to just be there with him. And it felt amazing. My emotions was all over the place. Of course, my other children were there. And I think if I can relive that day again, I would love to, because it was awesome. It was just awesome.
And they was the whole family on? I know I've talked to another donor mother, and the whole family was on board. Was your entire family on board?
Yes, they were on board. BJ, we don't know in life what's going to take place or what's going to happen. And through organ donation, we don't know who's the recipient of any organs that we may donate. But guess what? There are people out there that are waiting on these precious gifts of life that will help them be able to live a little bit longer, to be able to walk, run, whatever it takes for them to have better quality. They're just on this. That might be my mother, my sister. These people are just waiting on something that will help them. And I wouldn't have wanted to do anything other than what I've done. And it has definitely helped me through some depression moments, and just knowing that he's there and I can pick up the phone and call him. I don't know. It's like unexplainable. I really couldn't even express to you right now, how much how much I'm so thankful for the process of what took place. And I was approached by them, not even thinking about LifeLink and Donate Life. That was the last thing on my mind at that time. And who would have thought, and these representatives of LifeLink, and, they're human too. So they come in and they ask you these questions, and they do it out of respect that, that you've lost someone, and they're gentle, so I don't know. I just want to encourage other people, to give the gift of life, because it helps. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help one another in any fashion that we can possibly can. But I'm happy that I did that, and I didn't regret it for anything in the world, not knowing who his heart was going to go to. Didn't care about that. I just wanted somebody to be able to live life until, they couldn't anymore.
And explain to people how that makes you feel, because now that you've done it, obviously it was probably one of the worst days of your life to lose James,
Yeah.
But to see this gentleman, at least it gives you a little help through the process. It helped you, right?
Yes, it did help me, because I was down. And you know what really helped me? Because I work at Tampa General. My son, James, passed away at Advent Health, and his organs were brought over here to Tampa General, not knowing, this because of the HIPAA laws and what takes place is confidentiality. When I returned to work, and I worked on the cardiac floor, so I was on a floor that could have received him, as a patient. I came back and I felt like something was out of place. Like, why am I being treated, not bad, but I was being treated like, people just stood their distance. And it wasn't until my coworkers approached me a year later, when it was in the clear that we were able to conversate about the transplantation and the recipient and any of the other people that received the organs. We were able to talk about it. So they approached me and said, "Hey, Kalonda, you know what? We knew about your son's heart, and we kind of like took care of the patient, and it was done here at Tampa General." Do you know how that made me feel? That made me feel so good.
So you were actually, you didn't realize it, but you were somewhat part of the process. You were there as it was all kind of taking place while he was healing.
I sure was, and I didn't know. Just probably walking around in the hospital. He was in a room that I probably could have passed by or delivered instruments to. Those things touched me so much, because I truly love my son. He was my first child, and to be able to help someone, because that's who I am inspirationally. I just feel like that we should help each other in any way that we can, and to know that he was done here, like this is my home away from home, So I'm working and I'm walking around the hospital not knowing that gift of life was brought here to two people, and to know that they took care of, they took care of me. They, they did what they had to do in order to protect me and to protect the patient. But it was amazing. The story is such a great story. And I just, I don't know how I would be here right now today without being able to grasp that, so.
Your story helps me relate to something that happened to me. I did stand-up comedy for a while. And of course I did that after my heart transplant. And so, I talked a little bit about heart transplants. And one night a gentleman came up to me after a show and said that, their brother died a few months ago and they were an organ donor. And I knew I didn't say anything offensive because, I'm a recipient myself, but it's still like, how's this guy going to take it? And kind of like you, when you said you met your actual donor, he hugged me tighter than I think I've ever been hugged. And he said, to see you up on that stage and to live your life and do what you love to do, I saw a glimpse of my brother, and I appreciate that.
Yes. We laugh. James and I the recipient and I, we laugh sometimes because we go out to dinner whenever he comes to Florida, because he was he's a resident of Massachusetts and Boston. And he comes to Florida to his Naples home because he has a snow home here.
Okay.
And when he comes, he invites us out to, dinner, me and the family or whomever can make it. And then once he has his appointments here at Tampa General, his follow-up appointments and stuff, he comes by to whatever unit that I'm working on, and we talk and we get a chance to hug on one another, laugh, and just catch up on things. And I mean, it's a relationship that I wouldn't give up. And just to meet him, when I first saw him, I didn't realize the impact of the organ donation, and my whole life turned around after I realized that, wow, this can happen and this can, help someone else. And look at James, his heart is working in someone else, and it's giving him a good life, 6 years now. So we're moving forward, and anybody else that needs this type of organ donation, wow, we just need more donors.
Got to ask you a question. I talked to a donor mother not long ago on this very podcast, and she also has met her recipient, the person who got her son's heart, and when they interact, sometimes she believes that he has mannerisms of her son that comes out. And I've always heard that some people have, tendencies of their donor. Have you ever seen anything like that?
Well, his wife, when I talk with her, she's with him every time he comes. So that's funny that you would say, because you remember how I said earlier that my son thought he was a ladies' man.
Yes.
He was God's gift, and he can go out there and have a girlfriend, whatever. But the wife of the recipient told me one time, she said, "Kalonda, you see what you started?" I say, "Why? What happened?" And she goes, my friends call me a cougar now because the recipient feels like he is a ladies' man." So, and then he laughed. So I said, "They call you a cougar?" She said, "Yeah, I didn't tell you, but the recipient is like 75 or 76 now, because when he received it, he was about 70. And she said, "They call me cougar. My friends call me cougar because he feels like he's a ladies' man." And I was like, "Oh, really?"
Well,
then you started it. Like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Well, Kalonda, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of your son, James. He has continued his legacy. And is there anything before we let you go that you would like to share? Because I always give everybody the opportunity at the end of an interview to share anything that they would like to share.
Well, yes, BJ, I just would like to share that I became a volunteer of Donate Life and LifeLink Foundation, so that I can help others. Because now, when things tragically happen in your life, you want to find a way to matter again. Like you've lost something, but you want to find a way to help. Because I felt like at that time when James passed, that I was the one that was supposed to be able to help him, not no doctors. And if I would have made it to the hospital in time, I was crushed by this part. But anyway, that anyone out there listening could help another human with a good quality life, just become an organ donation. I know it's some myths and it's some facts that people listen to from the streets or whatever, or friends or neighbors and stuff. Just have that conversation, because it impacted my life. And right now today, I say that I'm still going through, because it never leaves you. But just when you have that bad memory, I think of that good memory that his spirit lives on. And I just want to encourage people to just become an organ donor and give the gift of life, that is needed to so many people that are out there suffering and can't, get it unless they're on a list or they've been approved to get one. and things of that nature. So that would be my cry out, because now I just truly believe that we can all play a part in, making our lives easier on some. Wouldn't you want to do that? I would love to be able to know that I'm able to help somebody live a little longer, or be able to do things that they can't currently do because of an ailment or a sickness,
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to donate life for allowing me to become a volunteer, but now I get a chance to share my story with people. And when I tell them that, they're like, Kalonda, we really didn't know that was going on. You don't walk the walk like you walk around here like you're sad. I say, no, how could I ever be sad? And that I work now in a hospital, that I see the sick people coming in here, and I work on the transplant side. So I'm able to go up and talk to those people and smile with them and just touch their hand, just do things that they didn't know people could be or do for them while they're sick, or you just have a kind gesture for them. And I don't know, it's just so amazing. It can impact, and it can just do a lot if, we just sat back and had these conversations with our family for organ donation, and what it can do for other people. Just knowing that you're out there helping, and just knowing that your loved one that you lost can still live on in others, and I just want to encourage everybody to do that if they can, and get information about it, because, there are some myths out there, but there's also some facts, and I just would like them to get the information on their own, and just by notifying LifeLink. And those conversations don't come up enough. I know, because I live in a community that they don't come up enough, and people have their own ideas about what was going on. But guess what? I had a question, and I had a worry about what was going to take place with my son, because when he passed away, and then we had to come to the conclusion that we were going to go ahead and do the donation, I worried about how it seems odd, but I was going to worry about the way that they took the organs. So I never had been a part of that. And to take the organs, they do a special type of cut or whatever, because I was worried about what I was going to get him to wear at the funeral, and if it was going to be visible. They reassured me that it was not going to be, some ugly mark or blah, blah, blah. And they did an excellent job. So the procurement team of Donate Life also answered my prayers, and we was able to have an open casket with my son. Oh man, this can be something so much more if people would just listen and get the true facts about organ donation. I mean, they worked around every area for me and completed what I was approved. I approved of the things that they had done, because they had done it in such decency and order, and I couldn't ask for anything, better than that, so I'm happy. And I wanted to spread the word, like Donate Life and LifeLink, to help others.
We thank Kalonda for sharing her story with her and James and the wonderful world of organ donation. And a big thank you to Erica, who explaining to us a little bit more about National Multi-Ethnic Donor Awareness Month. Also, a special thanks to London from LifeLink of Florida, who's setting up all the amazing interviews you'll hear in the month of August. Join us again next week for another touching episode, Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. If you have a transplant story and you would like to share it, reach out to us at GiftofLifePodcast@gmail.com and connect with us on Facebook at Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. Until next time, I'm BJ Odom. Thank you so much for being a part of our journey and reminding us all to appreciate each day and to cherish the extraordinary gift of life.